Welcome to Hearts and Stripes, your one-stop shop for all things military marriage. I hope our discussions and interviews equip you with the tools to start or grow a beautiful marriage as we address the benefits and challenges of marriage. I believe life's most precious moments are worth celebrating, so I'll help you design your marriage blueprint in alignment with your core values. Thank you for joining us, and remember to rate, subscribe, and review. Let's do this. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Hearts and Stripes. This is Bree Carroll, your host, and here for another exciting Heart to Heart. So we just wrapped up September, which was Life Insurance Awareness Month with Dee Pugh. So we kind of started this conversation on finances, and I figured why not keep that ball going. So I am excited, maybe even thrilled, ecstatic even to have this couple, Whitney and David, joining us. And let me give you a little background on them. Whitney and David Mikel are a dual military couple. They are both active duty serving in the Navy, and they paid off $65,000 in debt in just 13 months. Now, I'll let them share their story, but it is such a pleasure and an honor to have you guys here joining us for this Heart to Heart. Thank you so much for being here, and I so appreciate you sharing this inspiring story with all of us.
We're very excited. It's an honor, and I'm very glad that you decided to reach out to us. We love, like I said, strengthening marriages, sharing our story. It's just an honor. I'm very thrilled. What about you?
I feel the same way, honestly, man. Anytime that we have an opportunity to enrich people's lives, to encourage and to empower, I believe we jump at the opportunity.
That's awesome. And I love that y'all are doing it together. So I so appreciate that. It's awesome to hear husband and wife together sharing the story, because you didn't do this on your own. You guys both had to be on one accord to get your finances together. So let's jump on in. I would love to hear your military marriage story. Share a little bit of how you met and kind of what got you guys to be focused and more intentional about your finances.
So we met in 2013 on the USS Kearsarge off of the coast of Djibouti, Africa. And I was brand new coming to the ship. He was already there. He was kind of established, and we ended up on a working party together, down in the freezer, putting food in the freezer. And he offered me his gloves because I was a rookie. I didn't have gloves and my hands were cold. And I let him jump in right there.
Okay, well, that's an interesting place to begin, but yeah, so I gave her my gloves and we just began to converse. And in that conversation, I would ask her very important questions. So she played spades. She was a musician. I asked her, did she play basketball? She said she could play basketball. Now that she had to prove to me that she could hoop. She did. She had to prove it. I said, you're going to have to show me.
She had to prove it. I love it.
Right. That's right. So we went to the gym. And she could actually hoop. She could play. She could play. She could play. And we went on a couple of dates, and you can go ahead.
So the love in basketball is what got him. See, you can play.
Yes.
Yeah. So he, him and this guy were down there talking junk, and I'm like, well, I can hoop, and I'm the type, I let my game speak for myself. So I'm like, let's find out. And we did, and that kind of set it off. Just like you said, it was the love in basketball. We went on a couple of dates, and we just had a good time together. The conversation was very real. And the thing that really attracted me more to him is I told him, I don't want to engage in sexual activity until I'm married. That was very big for me at the time. And he said, okay. And I said, well, all right. And
Look at that. Yes.
yeah, so we chose to do it the right way. It was very tough, but we never crossed that boundary until we got married. So for me, that was a very, very big key in our story, and me saying, okay, this is probably going to be the man I marry, because I felt that whoever I marry would understand that. I needed them to love God just as much as I do, if not more. So, like I said, we went on dates and he asked me to be his girlfriend. And I said yes. And we dated for 2.5 years before.
You keep saying 2.5. I keep saying 3, but you go with 2.5.
We say 3. We dated for 3 years
I
before we
love
got
it. I
married.
love it. And
Yeah.
let me stop you guys there. I think that is beautiful. I am a God girl as well. I believe that people, when they put their faith first and they trust in God and they allow their path and their steps to be ordered, that some really big things can happen in their relationship. And I love that you were intentional from the beginning about how you wanted to walk out your relationship. And I really feel like that laid the foundation even for what we're going to talk about, and how you were intentional also about your finances. So kind of take us down that path. How long were you guys married before you started really getting serious about finances? And then let us know what did that debt situation look like for you?
So we were married in 2016. We got very serious about our finances last year, 2019. 2019. There was a guy at work, and my husband and I thought we were doing things the right way. We had excellent credit, like 700s, 800s, but we had debt, and our culture teaches that debt is so normal. Like, oh, you're supposed to have debt. So this guy comes into work and he starts talking about Dave Ramsey, and I'm like, I'm interested. I'm a money girl. We handle our money pretty good. So I started listening to him, and Dave started talking about this debt-free lifestyle. And I'm like, I didn't even know, never even considered it. I'm like, oh, we're always going to have a car payment, just like the world teaches. And I started listening to Dave, and at the time we had about $65,000 in debt, 65,000, which was huge, but we didn't even realize it was that bad. I came home and I told my husband about Dave Ramsey, and I'll let him tell his side of what he was thinking.
I love how y'all pass it off. I love it. Go ahead.
Yeah, man, it's a tag you're it type of atmosphere around here. But she came home and she wanted to tell me about this man named Dave Ramsey and his plan for financial freedom. So I said, you know what? Okay, cool. I'll listen. Always keep an open mind. So immediately she started talking about, well, we got to stop our TSP, stop our savings, drain it. I said, wait a minute. So you want to stop our retirement fund? You want to stop our daughter's college fund? You want to drain our savings? It was a lot of radical hoopla that it seemed to be coming out of her mouth, and I wasn't with it at first. Honestly, I wasn't trying to hear it.
Right. You're like, who is this Dave, and what did he tell you?
Yeah, like why, what gives him the ground to stand on to inform us what we need to do with our money? Because we thought that we were doing what we needed to do, what we were supposed to be doing. But as she continued and persevered to tell me, well, it's been proven that if we do this, and this, then we will get these, and results. So I said, you know what? I trust you. She's a lot better with money than I am, in the sense that, like she said, we still have great credit. But financially, she's better with numbers. I'm better with words. And in marriage, we learned to let the person who's better at something handle that something. It's not an ego thing.
That's so good. That's so good right there.
You like that?
Yeah, I'm telling you, because a lot of times I think couples, they think of gender roles, for example. And absolutely, there is a beautiful thing about submitting and respecting and honoring. But you said something that's so important. You have to operate to one another's strengths. And just because you identified with how strong she was in that area, that's beautiful that you were able to take her lead. And I mean, amazing. 2019, you had $65,000 in debt, and here is 2020 in the midst of a pandemic, nonetheless, and you're debt free. Like
Preach.
that's.
Yeah, it was I tell you what, it was tough. And a lot of people, they'll say, well, what's the trick? It's really not a trick. It's budgeting and working together. We were not eating out. I mean, Dave Ramsey says beans and rice, rice and beans. it was tough in here.
Yeah.
We didn't participate in Christmas. We got our little girl something for Christmas. No birthdays, no anniversaries, no gifts to each other. We made sure she was 1 at the time, made sure she had a few gifts for Christmas, and that was it. No celebrations of any kind. Though we wanted to, we didn't. We just said we have to finish this because we looked at the big picture and what it can do for our family, for generations to come. This can be the brand new start for our grandchildren. And I can't find anywhere in the Bible where God tells you to have debt. Nowhere. I can't find it.
Oh,
Is it there?
I checked. It's not there. It's not.
It's not. So it was really just teamwork. And just like he said, submitting to the process, trusting each other. It was a lot of teamwork and communication. A lot.
That is amazing. And I think the reason why I'm so drawn to your story is that level of commitment. People want to be motivated to do something. And it's not about motivation. It's about being committed. Your minds were fixed on a goal and you are willing to sacrifice to see that goal and it was only a year. So I do want to ask you, because Dave does talk about celebrating those wins via the debt snowball. So you mentioned not celebrating, but did you get creative about celebrating and maybe not do it in ways that you spent money, or did you just put your head down and muscle through?
Did we celebrate?
I was on deployment.
That's another thing. My husband was on deployment for 7 months during this 13-month process. So for me, it was just me and a 2-year-old at home. So there was nothing to celebrate. Now, I did create this. It was a wonderful board. I'll have to send you a picture of it. And it had chain links wrapped around for our last debt. Our biggest debt was $36,000. And there was chain links that were wrapped around the board. And for every $1,000 that was paid off, we would cut it. So while he was gone, my daughter and I would cut it. She would cut, I'd help her with the scissors and she would cheer. She didn't know what she was cheering for, but I'm like, yay, we did it. So that was
that is celebration. Yes.
Yeah.
And I love that. You know what I love the most about it is you got your child involved. So she was a part of the process of seeing just the transition and the transformation really in your life and in your finances. And that's something that, even though she may not understand it fully right now, that's something that she can pass down as well. If you could, please share a little bit of what Dave's steps were and how you executed them.
Okay. Something? Baby step one?
Well, being completely honest, like I said, I never read the book, the Total Money Makeover, but I just listened to the podcast. So, what in the world was babies? Oh, wasn't that throwing all of the debt that we had?
The
$1,000.
There you go. See
I
there?
got you.
Yeah, she, like I said, man, if she knows finances, then I just follow her lead on finances. It really
But
wasn't.
I love that you said that you listen to the podcast though. So
Yeah,
this
podcast.
information is out there for free. So a lot of people think that they have to go through the courses. And don't get me wrong, I love Dave's courses. I took the course. So I know what the content is. It is definitely quality, but you bring up a good point. His podcast in and of itself, you can follow the graphics even on a Pinterest, or if you Google it, go ahead and
Mhm.
Google it. You can find what those baby steps are. And it doesn't have to cost you anything, because I already know y'all were trying to conserve all of the funds
Yeah.
anyway. So I love that you were still able to follow the plan, see the results without having to spend. And actually that's also how kind of we met in the military version of the Dave Ramsey group, where you had other people who are working towards canceling and eliminating their debt. Tell me a little bit about why you joined that Facebook group, Whitney.
You know what? I never knew about it. A girl at work told me about it. She's a Dave Ramsey follower. And, I think I found out because she came to work one day, or we were at work, and one of us asked, "How are you doing?" And she said, "Better than I deserve." I'm like, "Oh, that's Dave." Wow, my ears, my ears perked up. And she's like, "Yeah, there are all kind of groups you can join." So I was asking her about baby step 4, which is putting 15% towards your retirement and then saving for your kids' college fund. So I was like, do you have to put 15% towards your kids' college fund, or how does that work? And then she suggested that I join the Dave Ramsey military group. And that's how I heard about it. And I joined, and I love reading people's stories in there, encouraging people. So that it just kind of fell in my lap, in all honesty.
Yeah, and that's awesome. I think a lot of times we don't realize the power of having those relationships and being in a group with, I like to say, like-hearted people who are moving towards similar or same goals that you are. It really makes a difference. And it helps you continue to push through even when those times are hard. Because I mean, them rice and beans, they get old sometimes, but you on the other side of that. So now if you wanted to, y'all can do steak on a budget still,
Say
because you
that.
want to maintain that lifestyle. So how is it as a couple kind of maintaining? You're debt free. Like, now what's next?
Well, now we have plans. I can talk about the plans. Now I know about the future.
So, but before he goes with the plan, the next step, I know you mentioned talking about the baby steps. You want to build your 3 to 6 months of emergency fund, which we're halfway through. We should be done in about 2 months, and then do your thing.
Yes, yes, yes. And then, well, we have a list of things that we'd like to do and accomplish. And the same way we decided that after we get out of debt, we were never, ever, ever gonna go back into debt again for any reason at
Say
all.
it strong, sir. Say it, sir. That's
Never,
right.
ever, ever going to go back into debt again for any reason.
Right, right.
But we have projects around the house that we want to do. One, we're gonna put a basketball court in the backyard. Yeah, that's one of the bigger projects that we're gonna do.
Right, for that hoop game. You have to.
Yeah. See there? It comes back full circle.
It does. I love it.
hmm But yeah, there's so many things that we want to do, trips that we want to take. What the man says, Dave Ramsey says, live like no one else so you can live and give like no one else, right? See,
Ooh, that's my favorite part. That is my
yeah,
favorite
yeah,
part. And I
yeah,
love that y'all just pounded. That
yeah,
was
yeah,
cute. The
yeah.
people didn't see it, but I felt it, y'all.
They
They
didn't,
pounded.
but that's genuine though. That's real.
Yes.
We talking about taking family trips and us paying for I'm talking aunties, cousins, uncles, moms, dads, sisters. We paying for it all. And it's not like it's breaking the pockets or anything because it's all paid cash. We saved up for it. And it's a give back. That's part of the giving, living and giving like no one else. You know what I mean? And it's a blessing. And it's a blessing. What I love about my wife is that she has the heart to give. She has the heart to give. On Instagram, I believe it was, when she decided to have the books and us and the baby and everything. Did she know about the baby?
If she didn't, she
Well,
does
you,
now.
you know about this baby, our daughter.
Yes.
There's another baby.
Well, congratulations, family. We got an
Yeah.
addition, and look at that. You are debt free and ready to bring in another addition. That's a beautiful thing.
It
That's a
feels so
beautiful
good.
thing.
So good. That I'm telling you, for any mother, you want to talk about taking some stress away from your pregnancy, pay your debt off and then get pregnant.
Mm.
It's a different feeling.
The water just tastes better.
Oh, the water.
The
I love
air
it.
smells better. You said the stoplights don't last as long.
What is wrong with you?
I'm just saying.
I love it. I'm here for it. But I think people really need to realize that, because like you said earlier on, it is a societal norm to have debt, because you hear other people talk about having good debt and bad debt. And if you go back to the word, nowhere does that say that there's good debt and bad debt. We don't want to be slave to the lender, and the only way that we can do that is by being debt free. And that's why your story is truly inspiring for me as well, because we are still working it out. We got a little more debt than 65K. But
that's all right.
But it's all right, because we are being intentional during this time. And I think I'm so impressed with you guys, because you had a mindset to, one, you trust in Whitney, which is amazing to me. Problem that maybe you weren't even thinking about, and you guys were able to work towards that goal together. So I encourage anybody who is listening to this story to get encouraged, get conviction out of this message. And like he said, the water tastes better. Don't you want to taste that water, that debt-free life water? That is different. I'm just saying. I love it.
Yeah, it's I don't know. It just feels so good. I mean, being back, 13 months ago, and we had $65,000 of debt. Is you looking at that mountain like,
how? Yeah, how? Yeah.
How? But I'll tell you another thing. It was like God was giving us money out of nowhere, checks in the mail. Like,
people, you know what though?
Where did this come from?
People talk about that on TV, like you hear it on the radio, you see it on TV, on them infomercials at night at 2:00 in the morning, where all them weird people just be all of a sudden, yeah, I got this amount of money in the mail from the, yeah, right. But legitimate, I don't know, and it might have, came from a genuine place, in the sense that money was owed to us from the escrow or from the house, or we overpaid this and that. But spiritually speaking, God knows what he's doing, and he don't make mistakes.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
We kept tithing. That was I'm talking about, as soon as that paycheck hit, the tithe came out first.
ASAP.
That's good.
Anything. And I believe that's why, part of the reason I believe that's why God honored this and expedited it, because we realize where our true source is. Although the Navy provides our money, but the true source is God.
Right.
Right. It was beautiful.
It is absolutely beautiful. And I was actually listening to a live of some friends of ours that host Made for Marriage is the ministry that they have. And they were talking about finances as well. And the guests that they had on, the Burrells, were just talking about that tithe. And people often think like, oh, well, God cares about the 10%. And he was like, no, God cares about the 100%.
Come on.
Tithe comes first, absolutely. But how you work and use that tool of money, God cares about all of it, not just the 10%. So I love the way you guys were just very patient through the process. And because you were sowing those seeds, I really feel like God honors what he sees you working towards. And I don't remember how somebody said it to me, and they said it probably more eloquently than I'm going to say it, but the way they communicated was basically, if you are standing still, how will God ever know where you're trying to go? So you have to be moving and working towards something, and God will say, let me move you forward. Let me push you closer to that. And that's exactly what I hear in your story. And it's so encouraging, just because a big thing, a stressful thing like money, is something that's tearing couples apart. And on this podcast, we talk about strengthening military marriages, and to see you guys like take hold of that completely. You don't even give the enemy anything to work with in the area of finances. And that's a power thing. So powerful.
And even during this debt payoff process, it seems like it brought us closer together. Like we were more united. It was a really, I guess it was empowering, I guess you could say. It just drew us together closer as husband and wife. And now tackling $65,000 in debt in 13 months, it almost feels like you can take on anything, because that's a monster in a very short time. So I would encourage any couple listening to, get with the program and realize that it will help your marriage and it will draw you closer to your spouse. You may have some disagreements and stuff like that, but the key is to remember that you're on the same team. You have to remember that you're on the same team. You have the same goal in mind.
Well, I just thank you so much for sharing your story. I just wanted to see if either of you had any last words of advice, whether it's in relation to money or in relation to marriage.
I would say, as Whitney talked about working as a team, I think one of the bigger things that was on my mind during this whole get out of debt evolution was, it is such an honor to be able to rewrite our family script with you. You know what I mean? Like she said, or like we discussed earlier on, it seems as though it's the social norm, and it has been the social norm for us to be born into debt. Many times our families, had aunties and uncles and mothers and fathers, and they put things in kids' names, telephone bills, phone, TV, whatever, cable bills in the kid's name, and they grow up and they're 18, 19, 20, 22 years old, and they're already in debt because of something that their parents did when they were like 3 years old. And so while on the other side of that, we see other people putting bills in their children's name, but they're paying things off. And now when their children is 18, 19, 20, 25 years old, they already have like a 735 credit score because they were doing it the right way. They set their children up the right way.
Yeah.
So why can't we? So now we're in a position to where we can talk about it and now show the example to where we can and we have rewritten the script. Yes, thank you, dear. We we set our daughter and, God willing, our future son up for success. You know what I mean? We set them up. They're born into a life of freedom, financial freedom. So if I could just encourage anybody out there to take your own personal pen and allow God to rewrite the script through you and for your family tree. Yeah.
He said it. I mean, rewrite your family tree, break these generational curses, and understand that we serve a God who wants us to have a good life. We have to remember that. So many times I think people are scared to talk about money. Just face that monster and take it out. And just like my husband said, rewrite that family tree, Think about what you're doing for generations and generations to come. Think about what you're teaching your children, your grandchildren, your nieces, your nephews. Even we've encouraged people who are older than us, mothers and fathers. So it starts with you. Don't wait for somebody else to do it for you. It starts with you. You can do it. You can do it, is what I say.
Y'all just don't know how much this conversation has just blessed me. This has been divinely ordained to even have this conversation, because you have truly spoken to the heart of what I hope to encourage through Hearts and Stripes podcast. So thank you so much for being a guest.
You're very welcome.
Thank you so much for having us. Beautiful. It was an honor.
Yes. So one last question for you guys before I let you go. Heart Tracks is a new segment that we are doing. And the last question is simply, is there a song, maybe it is your wedding song or a song that helped you get through this debt payoff? What would that heart track or what would that song be?
It would have to be
Thinking Out Loud by Ed Sheeran.
Yeah.
Yes, that's a good one. I love it. I love me some Ed. That's a good one.
Yeah, that's easily. We have this moment where we say it's 8:30, and 8:30 was a time before we got married when the atmosphere was right. It was beautiful and romantic. So now when that song plays or the mood is right, it's just we're at 8:30. So Ed Sheeran, Thinking Out Loud is definitely our heart song, easily.
Okay, everyone, you know what time it is. It is time to EYS, earn your stripes. So you have heard David and Whitney's story. It is very inspiring, and I really hope that each and every one of you kind of walk away with thinking a little bit harder about your debt situation. So for today's EYS, I want you to know that number. Look at your statements, whether that be your mortgage, your credit cards, your student loans. Figure out how much debt you were in. It may surprise you. It may be less than what you thought you had, which is actually our situation when me and my husband did this EYS, or it could be greater than what you thought you were in. Let this EYS be a wake-up call for you, and so that you can start putting together a plan for you to get debt-free. Now, we highly encourage you to check out Dave Ramsey and those baby steps as a proven system to get you out of debt. But first, this EYS is simply for you to know your number. EYS, find out how much debt you are in. And to all my debt-free people out there, this one is easy. Your number is 0, and we celebrate you. For everyone else, let's EYS. Let's find that number. Thank you for tuning in. Remember to rate, subscribe, and review. This is Hearts and Stripes. We are the few, the proud, that aim high and are forged by love. Always ready, always there. We are Mill Marriage Strong.